teaching series that you do that's going to get people out there and figuring this stuff out for themselves. Only getting people out there and figuring out this stuff for themselves is how you make fully featured Christians. These 5 practices will actually disciple people. Not just lead people to faith in Jesus, but they will disciple Christians. My fasting and my prayer life are improved because I'm praying and fasting for others in my life. For my own sanity, as I try to help people, as I listen, as I encounter, as my life bumps up against people. These are things that I think this is a discipleship, a part of a discipleship curriculum. So the first step in what we need to do is begin to develop spiritual eyesight, or begin to trust our spiritual eyesight. And what I want to encourage you to do is, as a group, begin to notice people who are spiritually awakening among you. And they're going to start asking questions, just like Aaron asked. How do you know when? I thought it was my neighbor, but it's not. Or I've been talking with this coworker for a long time and nothing's happened. And sometimes it's because nothing's happening. And sometimes it's because your coworker is doing things you've never seen before, or moving through stages in a way that you're not familiar with. Another thing that this surfaces in your small group, in your church, if you practice it, is that people will begin to notice that they don't notice other people. What a profound discipleship moment that is. Why do you think you don't notice people? Well, because I'm too busy. Why are you so busy? In Canada, we are so proud of how busy we are. And in our churches, in our pastors, we are so proud of how busy we are. Eugene Peterson, one of my favorites, said that if you are too busy as a pastor, you are either a thief or a liar. Pick. You're either stealing God's time or you're lying about how important you are. So I want to suggest to you that we need to diagnose the busy. And when we started doing this as a small group, some of them felt conviction from the Spirit that they maybe needed to make some changes in their life. It's not because I preached on it. I just said, who are you noticing this week? And some people would have an answer, and lots of them wouldn't. And they'd say, why aren't I noticing? And I'd say, well, that's a good question. Ask yourself, why aren't you noticing? Ask the Spirit, why aren't I noticing anything? And the Spirit will do the Spirit's job. God's pretty good at his job. I don't know if you do that, if you're paying attention lately. He's good at it. And then when you notice someone in your life that is spiritually awakening, and it can just be stirring in their sleep a little bit, I want you to learn to pray. And when I say pray, I don't mean go up to the bus boy at the local restaurant, lay hands on their forehead and say, Jesus! What I mean is, pray for people. If we are 3 generations deep in being nones in Canada, it means that there's a very good chance your neighbors and your co-workers can go cradle to grave and no one has ever lifted them before. And every single last one of you can do something about that. Just basic. Everyone in your church can do this. Everybody. This isn't hard. I haven't said anything even remotely hard yet. And you'll actually notice I'm not going to give you a burden. I'm actually wanting to make this fun. So notice and pray. And then what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to begin to listen to the person that you've noticed and you've prayed for. And by listen, I don't mean wait until they finish talking so that you can say who Jesus is. I mean actually listen to them. Because if we are a society that is very, very busy, which we are, a society that does not notice each other, to give someone your undivided actual attention is a profound gift. And you can give it very, very freely. Very simple. You say, how you doing? And you mean it. And you actually just listen to a person. You take them seriously. You bring the whole of yourself to the table and you invite them to do the same. That's a profound space. That is a profound space. And so the Spirit loves to work in that kind of space, honestly. And once you listen to people, it's really hard. It's really hard once you really listen to somebody. And you're praying for them. And when I say pray for them, I mean actually pray for them, not in the evangelical, I'll be praying for you way, but like the actual, they're on your list and you routinely. And I want to actually suggest to you, and this is a practice my family engages in, if we're noticing someone and we've prayed for them and we've begun listening to them and we've fallen in love with them, which happens very regularly when you hear people's stories, we don't eat. And instead we pray for them. We fast on behalf of others. I literally want you to do that. I'm not saying it as some magical spiritual thing or like a suggestion. I'm saying do it. Do it. These are all things you could do without anybody's permission, without anybody ever knowing. You can notice them, you can pray for them, you can listen to them, and you can love them. What does loving someone look like? Well, it means looking after them. It means if they need something, you be the first one to offer it. It means giving them stuff that you have. Dremel tools included. It means all the things that you know it means. And what you will notice when you notice, and you pray, and you listen, and you love, people will want to know your story. And when it comes time to share your story, I want you to be ready. 1 Peter 3:15 says, always be prepared to give an answer for the hope that you have. And our churches just aren't prepared. Our churches aren't prepared because we don't live the first four. And we're not invited to speak. So live in a way where you practice number 4 and then be prepared for number 5. Get ready to tell your story. Now please realize that just because it's your story doesn't mean that it's going to have an impact or be even remotely convincing to your neighbor. But if you were a church of stories, of testimonies that weren't, when I was 5, I prayed at my mother's knee. I'm glad if that happened to you, but I really hope God has done something else in your life since then.
Yes, yes.
And if he hasn't, this is also a moment to pay attention to that and ask, why not? Why not? So when you tell your story, I want you to figure out how to make it personal. want you to talk about maybe a lie that you believe about God, that Jesus is currently trying to challenge. And maybe the way that Jesus has intervened in those lies, has set you straight, has taught you something profound about God, and maybe what that's doing to your heart, how it's fixing you. Maybe it's a lie you believe about yourself. I don't know that I have time. I think I have time. I'm going to teach you something that I've learned from missionaries. When it comes to telling their story, when it comes to telling the Jesus story, missionaries assume that the Holy Spirit is already at work among the people that they're going to see. Right? You know that, right? So if your picture candidate is godless, you have spiritual blindness. You need to open your eyes, people. The Spirit is already out there at work. It's already 1,000 miles ahead of you. What I met in my neighbor was a long thread of other people who had spoken into his life. It just happened to be I was the last one. That's all. I was just the last one. But they were all obeying the Spirit. They were all doing the job. And thank God they didn't treat every conversation with my neighbor in a win-lose kind of way. They saw it as part of his journey, and they helped them along. When that guy saw that baptism, somebody from the church followed up because he filled in one of those cards. And that guy really helped them out. So what missionaries look for in the culture that they're a part of are what they call redemptive analogies. Things that are already present in the culture that are kingdom-inspired. They also look for ways in which that way of life leads to brokenness. Because the challenge with our ways of life, our systems of righteousness, the challenge with them is that ultimately these are things that we use outside of Christ, outside of what God does on our behalf, to make ourselves good and pure and right. And they don't work. And often they don't work because they're designed to make somebody a bad guy that isn't you. It's designed to deflect the problem. And so all of your problems get put on somebody else. It's called a scapegoat. And there's a reason we talk about that. And we look for those in a culture because that's kind of how the world works. So what I'd like to do is just take a minute and I'd like to play a video for you of a system of righteousness that I've seen at work here in Canada. And I'd like us to tease it out together. You can see your mouse moving. There we go.
The secret.
So if you could just go back to the beginning.
What we do defines who we are. I'll let you in the secret. What we do defines who we are. It's not where we're from or what we say. It's the commitments we make. Promises we keep, the sweat we pour. If you've ever woken up on a Wednesday with 40 hours under your belt, or driven through the night just to keep your word, you've worked your fingers to the bone, bloodied back
system of righteousness that a lot of Canadians live by. It's from Mark's work warehouse. I don't work for them at all. But that is, you can find people that this is the way that they navigate the world. Let me ask you, who are the good guys in this story and who are the bad guys? Bad guys don't actually appear in the commercial. But who are the good guys and the bad guys? Good guys are the hard workers. People who wake up Wednesday morning with 40 hours already under their belt. I don't know how you sleep and achieve that, but okay. Who are the bad guys? They're not in, they don't feature in the commercial, but they're there. People on welfare. Yeah? This crappy millennial generation that won't work for a living. They're in there.